if you put your mind on it, then you will be able to achieve it, to get to that point. You don't look at any obstacles, you look on how to overcome them, right? You get this intrinsic motivation. If your purpose is strong enough, you will find ways to achieve it. I love the term helicopter view because a lot of times we don't see reality, we see our interpretation of reality. Because if we would see everything, our brain would explode.
Happy birthday to you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the No Have Cakes podcast. My name is Jim Sabellico, and I'm your host for this show. I just want to thank you for being here. These are my favorite types of episodes. If you're new, these Wednesday episodes drop every Wednesday. They are the full-length version of the show, where I'm going to sit down with someone who's done some stuff in life. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the lessons we learned along the way, and really it's just an opportunity for you to sit alongside of us while we have those conversations and just pull some nuggets out. And these are chock full of nuggets. Today's episode, I know, will be as well. Our special guest today is a leadership coach with expertise in mindset, someone who is a master of science in the electrical engineering category, someone who is a professional hypnotherapist, a master soul key therapist, among a laundry list of accomplishments. I am super pumped for today's conversation, specifically because one thing that he does mention is that people are more capable than they give themselves credit for. And that's something that I believe strongly as well. And I know he's got a way to prove that. So without further ado, Mr. Erwin Wils, I'm super pumped to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Thanks for the invitation. A wonderful introduction as well.
Thank you. Yeah, no, you've certainly accomplished a lot in your career, and I'm super pumped to talk about it. So how do you get someone to understand what they're capable of? I'd love to just jump right into that.
Yeah, well, I can prove it with a 3 steps challenge, actually. There are 2 physical challenges and 1 mental challenge. And if your audience would like to participate, they're more than welcome to do so. The first physical challenge is I want you to take one of your hands and reach it as high as possible and make a mental note which height you reach with your hand. Perfect. So the second physical challenge is I want you to take that same hand and reach it even higher than you just did. Let me know if you succeeded.
Confirmed.
Perfect. You can lower your hand now. So the third challenge, that's just a mental challenge. It only consists of 1 question, and that's the most brilliant part of this challenge, in my opinion. Why didn't you do that the first time?
It's a great question.
Right?
I don't have an answer for it.
Yeah. Sometimes people say, well, I knew what height I had to reach, and I just needed to reach higher than that. And that's true, right? They're totally right on that. But what I did the second time, they could have also done the first time, right? I didn't put any limitation on you. And you did this exercise actually sitting down, right? You could have stood up. You could have climbed to your desk, telling me that the ceiling is limiting your hand from reaching higher. It all has to do with frames, right? You put yourself in some sort of frame. Within that frame, you think you do the best you can until you're challenged to get out of that frame and you realize you can do even better. And it has to do with the written and unwritten rules you got from home, from your parents, from your teachers, from your friends. You know, we like to belong to a group, right? So if you want to belong to a group, you also adjust yourself a little bit to that group you want to belong to, right? To its social environment, to the culture you grow up in. And the moment you start adjusting yourself, you might lose a little bit from yourself, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And what I love to do is to explore the nature of my clients, to find their inner strength, their inner talents, and make them use it for good.
So these frames that we're talking about, are they designed to keep us comfortable or safe? Like, what's the origin of these frames?
Yeah, well, it's also that, of course, as a hypnotherapist, we talk about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, right? And the subconscious mind always has a positive intention, right? It wants to keep you safe, to protect you, to take care of you. But it doesn't mean that you're always happy with the behavior it uses for that, right? And as an example, most of the times I use the story of two little boys. It has frozen a few nights. There's some ice on the water, and there's some bigger boys that challenge them to get on the ice, right? And they can't swim yet. So the first boy might be scared, afraid, until maybe he starts panicking and run to his mother crying, right? The other boy might sit next to the water, put one foot on the ice, put a little pressure on it, stamp on it, do the same with 2 feet, and as long as everything goes right, he puts more and more weight on the ice until he's finally has his whole weight on the ice, right? In both situations, a very positive intention, right? Because they didn't jump on the ice without thinking, they didn't run through, they're still alive, so that's very positive. Yet, with the first boy, anxiety and panic and fear was used to protect him. With the other boy, caution was used to protect him, right? And the subconscious doesn't experiment with behavior, right? It doesn't say, I've got a new situation. It's it's more or less similar than the first situation. Back then, fear has helped him to stay safe. Let's see if perseverance has the same result, right? It doesn't do that. It just says, okay, fear has helped in the past, so I'll use fear again because I more or less know what the result will be. So you'll understand that the first boy, where fear and panic was used to protect him, won't develop as much as the boy where caution was used.
So then, would it be fair to say that for that first boy, he maybe has a history of using, or subconscious mind has a history of using fear to protect him in the past, and that's worked out well, so he defaults to that going forward?
Exactly. Right. And if you think about it, we're all familiar with the term comfort zone, right? It's where you feel safe, where you feel secure. And everything within your comfort zone is known, right? It's predictable. So the easiest way for your subconscious to keep you safe and protect you is to keep you in your comfort zone until you've got such a powerful drive to get out of your comfort zone and you start developing yourself.
Now, what about someone who would maybe intentionally, well, I guess it sort of lines up with the same drive to get out of your comfort zone, but someone who intentionally puts themselves in uncomfortable situations often on purpose to sort of proactively shake up the system and get some different results?
Yeah, that's depends on the person itself, right? It can be that the person wants to grow or finds a purpose that is so strong that he wants or she wants to develop themselves to go that path, right? If I look at myself, my drive has always been to help people, to help them, to guide them, to empower them, and that made me get onto the entrepreneurial journey, right? If I hadn't had that drive, I would still be an employee with a certain company. And I was doing great over there. But because of this drive to help people, to empower them, I decided to start the entrepreneurial journey. But it could also be that the person is just a thrill seeker, right? Or they want to explore let's say, the limitations of the human body, right? To see if they can challenge it, to find the boundaries of the human body. There's this very famous man in the Netherlands, the Iceman, right, who is done extreme things with his body, but he's trained to do that, right? To take cold baths, to run a marathon in the North Pole and stuff like that. So he's putting his body to the extreme, but always in how do you say it? In a controlled environment, right? But there are
Right.
also people that might be think I can do that as well, and they're unprepared and they're challenging the body too much, and that might damage the body. So you never know what the reason is for a person to explore the boundaries of their comfort zone of their body or whatever. But that's what drives a person to start finding those challenges and answers.
That's awesome. So then let's go back to those two boys if we can. So the first one who's protecting himself based on fear, right? How would they start to shift maybe that that mindset or that pattern where they don't use fear as the first sort of default to keep them safe?
You have the pyramid of Bateson and Dilts, which is about the logical levels of change of a human, right? And you got the lower level is the environment. The level above is behavior. Then you got your skills. Then you got um, your values. Then you got identity, and the top one is purpose, right? And top down influences the lower levels, right? And bottom up, it also might influence the levels above, but you decide in what way. And the easiest way to explain it is if you look at the environment and behavior, right? Those are the lower two levels. And let's say somebody is bullying you, right? So the environment is sending out bullying behavior towards you. Now, it does have an influence on you, but you decide in what way, right? If you feel bullied, you're actually feeding the bully, right? So he or she will feel that it has a certain effect, a desired effect, and it will continue bullying, right? You could also ignore the bully, which might result in that the bully will find another victim because he doesn't see any effect, or the bully will intensify its behavior because he wants to see or she wants to see an effect, right? But you might also be showing empathy, right? That you think, why is she or she bullying me, right? Maybe he's insecure. He wants, maybe he has a certain private situation that is feeding his bullying behavior, right? He's finding a way out or something, whatever. So you start showing care about the bully. You know what's going on? Why are you doing this, right? So your behavior definitely influences the bully. So you decide in what way you react to the bullying behavior, right? And it's valid for all levels. So when I started out as a hypnotherapist, people came with me with certain behavior they wanted to have changed. And I knew when I was at the level of values and beliefs, and I could make a change on that level, it will automatically also influence the behavior. And as I mentioned earlier, that the purpose is the highest number in that pyramid. So if you know your purpose, or you follow your purpose, you know that everything that goes down will be influenced by it. You won't be stopped, so to speak. So if you're um, controlled by fear, so to speak, but you have a certain drive, a certain purpose, a certain passion you want to follow, you will overcome that fear because this internal drive, the intrinsic motivation is so strong that you gather all the courage in your system and go through that fear, so to speak.
And that would, I guess, in turn help build a little bit more resilience or ability to handle that again the second time it comes up, right?
Exactly.
So what about, are there maybe some physical or mental triggers that someone can install for themselves to help trigger a behavior change?
Yes, that's possible. We call it like anchors, and it's the easiest way to explain it is with an example, right? You can have a certain situation. Let's say that you're driving in a car, you're listening to the radio, and suddenly a certain number comes up, right? A song, and it immediately reminds you of like a great moment, right? That you maybe from your wedding or the birth of a child or graduation day or whatever, right? Or any success that you had. That's what you call an anchor. You know, it's a trigger to trigger a certain emotion in yourself. It's some people also have it with a certain smell, right? Like apple pie or baked cakes. They remind me of their grandmother that always baked those cakes on Sunday morning. You got those with breakfast or something like that, right? That's what we call anchors or triggers. So you can also connect a certain um emotion, certain feeling with such a trigger. So, for instance, there's a certain technique, what we call ancient authority, right? And that's when I ask my clients to go back to a certain moment that truly felt accomplished pride, right? And you put them in that certain moment, and you have them feeling that emotion of accomplished pride all over. You even intensify it a bit more. And then you might ask, what you can, for instance, say that, okay, I'm connecting this certain feeling with a little press of my pinky and my thumb, right? And if you repeat it a few times, then by pressing your pinky and your thumb together, you're automatically activating this feeling, this emotion of accomplished pride. And you could use that, for instance, if you're having a conversation or you're in a meeting and you feel that you're like losing control a little bit, you activate that feeling and emotion by pressing your thumb and pinky together. And then automatically you break up, like you put your chest to the front, your shoulders to behind, you raise your head a little bit, and you're actually showing authority again. So those kinds of triggers you can actually install within yourself to get into a certain state.
Wow, that's it's amazing to hear and think about. It's almost like creating a superpower, so to speak.
It's sort of is, but you also see it with famous sports athletes. They all have those. They always want to get into the zone, so to speak, right? They're almost like into a trance, like a self hypnosis, because they put themselves in a certain state that they can perform at top level. And it's all with rituals, right? There's some soccer players that touch the grass before they enter the field, right? Some people put on the left sock before the right sock and the left shoe before the right shoe, because that's the proper way to prepare for a big match. And that's always to put themselves in this I would almost say zone of genius where they can perform at the top level.
Right. And it's interesting you bring that up with professional athletes, because I think for most people that makes sense for them to have this routine where they want to go out and perform their best, but they don't necessarily think the same way about their own life when they show up every day, when they want to be the best version of themselves. Why don't we do the same thing for us when it's just we wake up in the morning? Why don't we go through that same sort of routine to have the best possible day where we can show up for ourselves and our family?
Yeah, and it's great that you put on this topic, Jim, because it's I'm a business coach. I help my clients to thrive in their business and to get more revenue and grow themselves and the business, of course. And in sports, it makes common sense to have a coach, right? If you want to go to the top, you get a coach, because without a coach, you don't get there. Why should it be any different for business, right?
Right.
There's still some sort of mindset that people think, you know, uh, the moment I get a coach, I sent out to the environment that I can't make it by myself. I'm a failure, right? I need external help. But in sports, it's if you don't have a coach, you won't make it to the top, right?
Right.
So it's all about mindset, and that's the issue.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing too because we just had the Olympics, and if you look at like the USA basketball team, which was full of NBA All Stars, you've got your Steph Curry, your LeBron James, you've got a dozen or so All Star capable players who've been playing forever. They have a coach,
Yep.
right? These are guys who are at the top of their game, who are probably more than capable of just knowing what to do by themselves. They still have a coach. They have multiple coaches, right? So you think about these people who are at the very highest possible percentage of their game. They are the top 0.01% of being the best at the thing that they do. They still have someone to be that coach to help them kind of push through the next level. And I think it's more so than just not knowing what to do, but it's someone to bounce ideas off of. It's someone to have a different perspective on. A lot of times, I'm sure even there's some things in your own life where you maybe need to talk to someone else
Yeah.
because you're just kind of too close to it. You can't see on your own.
Yeah. Well, I always like to use the example of the television series The Voice. Do you know it? The Voice.
Yeah.
That there are some people that go to the audition and they are unconscious incapable, right? They can't sing and they don't know it by themselves. And they need the jury to make them conscious incapable, right? With remarks, please, I wouldn't give up your day job yet, right? Or please keep it for yourself or under the shower, right? And some people don't accept those comments and they stay unconscious incapable for the rest of their lives. But there are also some people that are welcoming this constructive feedback, but they feel it, they have a passion for singing. So they take a vocal coach, they take singing lessons. And after a few months or years, they can actually sing quite well, right? At that moment, they're conscious capable. And then if they keep repeating it and rehearsing, there is a certain moment that they become unconscious capable, right? That they just can sing and they don't need to think about it, right? But you also have those natural talents, right? They're unconscious capable to begin with, right? The moment they start singing, you get shivers all over your body, and when they're singing, you don't want it to end, right? It's so beautiful. But what's the downside of being such a talent, of being unconscious capable?
Can you say that again?
Well, the downside of being such a natural, such an unconscious capable person is that they don't recognize it as a talent, right? It comes so easy for them that they think everybody can do it. It's not so special what they're doing, right? Most of them are sent by the friends or family to go for the audition, right? And they need a jury to make them conscious capable of the talent, that it's a gift, they should cherish it. And you see those persons grow during the live shows. They start recognizing their own talents and they start enjoying it.
So
That's what unconscious capable, that's the downside of being such a natural talent. And it's my belief that everybody has their own talents, but they're not always conscious about the talents.
and I want to talk more about this because I think the unconscious capable and conscious incapable, the all the four varieties of that, I think are really worth getting into. But just to go back to what you just said, so in a way, someone who might be unconscious capable would then go back to being conscious capable before they then go back to being unconscious capable again.
You might say that, but it's more that they become aware of the talents, right? There's a great saying about blind spots. You don't see them for yourself, right? That's why they're
Right.
called blind spots. And you need another person to point them out to you. That's its blind spot. And such a talent is also, you could consider it also as a blind spot. You know, some things are so normal for you that you think everybody has it, but it's you, right? It's a talent, it's a gift you have, and you should put it to good use and not waste it.
Right. So could we talk a little bit more about the four different variants of that?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So I'd love to just kind of hear your explanation on the different stages and how they work.
Yeah, well, unconscious incapable is like I said, you know, you love singing but you can't sing, you don't hear your own voice. So, or you might think that you want to play soccer because your friends all play soccer, right? But most of the time you're on the bench because you can't actually play and the coach won't put you in the team. So then you're unconscious incapable, right? You want to be on the soccer team because all your friends are on the soccer team, right? And you love it, to be with your friends, to play with them, but you can't hit the ball. Then you're unconscious incapable. The moment the coach or the trainer tells you, you know, maybe you're better as a goalkeeper, but as a field player, you're not that good, right? You can't hit the ball straight. And there's a reason why your teammates don't pass the ball to you because most of the times you lose the ball. It sounds hard, but that moment they become conscious, incapable. They know they're not good at it and they realize it that they're not good at it, right? That's the reason why they never get the ball passed or whatever.
So let's stop there for a second if we could, because that transition from unconscious and capable to conscious and capable feels painful. Surface value, it feels like telling someone, hey, you're not good at this thing. I think that's sort of the first thought process someone might have is you have to have that conversation where you tell someone, hey, I know you want to play soccer, but you suck. You shouldn't be on the team, right? And I think that's not necessarily the way that conversation has to go. If you do it properly, it's really actually gifting someone into kind of moving them toward the direction that's going to be best for them and kind of help show them what their gifting really is. So,
Oh, definitely. And what you also um, this is a very black and white example, right? As a business owner, sometimes it feels you have to do a lot of things, right? But if it isn't a talent of yours, it will ask much more energy from you to do it. For instance, posting on social media, right? Maybe you don't have a gift to write, or you use a lot of jargon that is totally clear for you, but let's say that an average person won't understand anything you're putting out of there because it's like a foreign language for them, right? And you think you're doing a great thing, and you ask yourself why you don't get any engagement on your posts. Right? At that moment, you might consider yourself being unconscious incapable of posting messages on social media,
right,
or you think you're great at you have to you're just starting out, you want to do your own finances, and you're only losing money, right? And you can't put your finger on it. Why am I losing money, right? There was a company that had they had like three products that they sold, right? And there was one product that was selling the best of all, and they didn't make enough money, enough profit. So they decided to put all the focus on selling product A. And a year later, they went bankrupt because they didn't know the financials, and product A was actually profit loss, right? They didn't make any money on it. They sold it below uh, their own price, right? It
right,
costed them like €5 to produce it, and they sold it for four. So every unit of product A they sold, they lost $1. But because they didn't know the financials and they only saw that this one was selling like crazy, they started focusing on that. So at that moment, they're also unconscious, incapable of their own financial situation.
yeah. So I guess what I'm saying, and I'd love to figure out how to make that mindset shift of hearing feedback, because I think a lot of people hear feedback all the time about they're not good enough at a certain thing or they're not good at this, where it's more a redirection to something that they are better at, because doesn't it feel good when you do something that you're good at? It feels great.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what I'm trying to drive at is how do we help someone make that anchor for themselves when they get feedback about something that they might not be the best at, to then say, hey, thank you, I appreciate that, because now I can go spend time doing something I am better suited at instead of banging my head against the wall doing something that is costing me money or, painful.
Well, when I'm working with a client, I sometimes ask them to just monitor all activities they do in a week, right? And divide them over three columns. Like column A are the tasks you love to do, and ideally you would do them all the time. Column C are the tasks you hate to do, you don't like doing, but you do them anyway. And the middle column, column B, is the column that you don't mind doing that, but if somebody else would do it, you're fine with it, right? And ask them how much time they invest in all those activities. And you might be surprised, but sometimes you get like 60% they spend in column C because they don't like doing it, so it will cost them more time to do it. So they spend a lot of time in column C while their ideal tasks are in column A. And what I say about column C is you should automate those tasks, delegate those tasks, or eliminate those tasks. So don't do them anymore, right? So if they're freeing up time in column C, they can spend it in column A, and they start shining and feeling energized again.
Right.
And it's all about how you bring the message, of course, right? I just remembered the great example of the daughter of our neighbors, former neighbors. She was having swimming lessons, right? And her mother told us that her daughter wasn't that great at swimming, right? And at a certain moment, she came back from swimming lessons, and we saw her, and she was totally enthused, right? And said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Well, the teacher said that I'm doing so great that from next week on, I can come to swimming lessons twice a week because she just needed additional lessons to catch up with the
Right.
others, right?" So it's also how you bring the message that will make a big difference, of course.
Yeah. Now, that positive energy, that momentum, do you feel like momentum is a real thing for people?
Yeah, I feel momentum is a real thing because if you see the fruits of your action, it will feed your next actions, and you get in this positive visual circle that will go up and up, and you will feel empowered. You feel more driven to proceed with it. It's the same when the lockdown was and you couldn't go to the gym or whatever. I started running, right? And I never liked running. I actually hated it, but I did it back in the days. I did running because I needed more condition for my judo matches. I competed in judo. And during the lockdown, I decided, well, the only thing I can do is start running to work on my condition. And at first, it was um, more like jogging, right? It wasn't actually running. I ran a little bit, then I walked again. I ran a little bit, but every time I went out, I wanted to improve just a little bit. If I run the first time like 50 meters, next time I wanted to run 55 meters or 60 meters, right? And that improvement motivated to keep on going. And at the end, I could run the whole course I was aiming for. So this positive motivation feeds and empowers you to keep on improving, keep on.
Yeah. Now, what about the opposite of that with negativity and surrounding yourself with people who may always complain or people who are arguing with each other on the internet? Like, how much does that hurt your forward momentum?
It goes the same way, but then downwards. I would say. It's also um, one of my mentors also said, "Where intention goes, energy flows, and where energy flows, something grows." Right. So if you have your focus on something, it tends to give you blinders, right? The easiest way to I love talking with examples. Let's say that you're about to buy a new car, right? And you've put your mind on one particular car, one particular model. The moment you've decided to that you want that car, that model, you suddenly see driving everywhere. It's like the half the city has bought the same car as you decided you wanted to buy, right? Did you think to yourself, why is it that every time I want to buy a new car, like the whole city drives the same car? Well, the whole city already drives that car like for 2, 3 years, right? Your next door neighbor might have the same car, and the fact that you walk by it every day for the last half year was an implicit trigger to start liking that car. And your unconscious mind has always noticed that car, but because it wasn't that important to you, that information got filtered out, right? Until you decided that you wanted that particular model, your subconscious knows, okay, that's what Jim finds important, and it will forward every time that it will see that car to your conscious mind that you'll notice it.
Right. Yeah, I call that living in the matrix.
Yeah,
Where you can we got all this information that's always coming in, right? There's so many things coming into our eyes and our senses that we don't pay attention to it because it's not relevant to the thing that we're paying attention to, right? But once we decide that that is important, it It connects with our reticular activating system, and we understand, hey, I need that information to come not just through my eyes, I need to process it. So I think, exactly what you're talking about. When you make it important to see positivity or negativity, you're going to start to see more of that, and it's going to build more and more.
Right. And the easiest example that I can give right now that you can experience yourself is that our body is a very big um, kinesthetic tool, so to speak, right? And the fact that the seat you're sitting on is putting pressure on you behind is part of the information that enters your body every second. And now you're noticing it because I put the focus on it. But the moment you sat down on that chair, this input has been there all the time.
And there's so many things that are like that we just don't pay attention to. They're not really relevant to us in the moment unless we need to think about it.
Exactly, until we put focus on it. And then it becomes important and you start noticing it even more.
Right. And I think that's such an amazing tool for people to take advantage of, because you can intentionally change what you focus on. So if you start focusing on things that you are grateful for, things that are positive, things that are going well for you, you start to see more of those, and you can start to intentionally build that positive momentum for yourself, right? You can control that. It really, like, once you figure out how to make that shift, that's why I call it living in the matrix. You can almost alter your reality based on what you focus on.
There has been an experiment where they investigated why certain people seem to be born for luck and others seem to have misfortune all the time, right? One of the experiments they did was they were giving a full color magazine, right? And they got an assignment of I want you get 2 minutes time and I want you to count all the pictures in the magazine, right? All the people that um, were thought to have always misfortune, they all needed the full 2 minutes, and some were pretty close, but none of them had the right number of pictures, right? The people that seemed to be born for luck, they were all finished within like 30 seconds, 1 minute. And some of them asked if they got an additional 50 pounds because on the, I think the second or fourth page, there was a text written like in an advertisement. This magazine contains 76 pictures. And just below that, if you read this, you get an additional $50.
Wow.
So it's like people that thought they were born for bad luck, they got blinders, right? They had this conviction that they were always having bad luck. And when they got an assignment, they were only thinking about this assignment. And the people that were always having luck, they were more open-minded. So they were not only focusing on the pictures, but also scanning the pages. Their eye catched this text, and they were drawn to it because they saw the word picture, and they said, "Oh, this magazine contains 76 pictures," and they were done. They were finished.
That's amazing. So, wow, I got to read more about that. There's so much I could ask about that, but I think definitely my first question that comes to mind when I hear about that is, for someone who might believe that they were born for bad luck, like, what do they do to start breaking that chain of belief? Because it's just a belief mindset where they're thinking that they are, right? They're born the same, but how do they start to break that chain to build? Is it just deciding to start looking at things more positively and building that, like we just talked about, or like, what does that person do to break out of that?
Well, we're talking about the mindset. You also talk a lot about a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Like a fixed mindset is always looking for the obstacles, I would say, and the growth mindset is always looking for the opportunities. What I love to say is an NLP quote actually is that the feedback that you get is the result of your behavior. And which actually means that if you follow that quote, you take full responsibility of your own actions. For instance, if I try to explain something to you and I get the feedback from you that you don't understand what I'm explaining, I need to change my behavior. I need to change my wordings until the moment you get it.
Right.
So I take full responsibility of my own actions. I don't say you're dumb, right? You don't understand it, you're stupid or whatever. No, I take full responsibility because I didn't explain it in a way that you understand.
That's huge. And I think that hits on a topic that a lot of people struggle with is in communication, they speak and then they assume that everything is received, right? And there's four very important parts of communication: what is said, what is heard, what is meant, and what is understood. And I think we have to take accountability, like you just said, for all four parts of that, not just maybe I meant to say one thing, but you might not have understood it, or you might have misheard me, or you might have perceived it in a different way. And for a lot of us, we just say, well, I told you, and then that's it, I'm done. Or I said this, oh, I didn't mean it that way. So it's your fault that you heard it wrong. And that causes so much contention between people, where I think if we started taking accountability for the way that we show up, well, obviously it's hard for people, right? People don't want to take that accountability because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. This little picture of a six with two people opposing each other, right? That one says it's a six, the other one says it's a nine. I have the same with the letter E, the capital E, right? Because you can look it from four directions. Then it's either a three, an E, an M, or a W, right? And all four are right if you look from their point of view. So the key is to leave your own view, to look at from the other point of view, and see if you can explain it in their words.
Right. And I think if we were able to do that, man, society would be so much better off. But I guess in order for me to leave my perspective to come to yours to see, your perspective on that letter E or whatever we decide it is, I have to be so comfortable in myself to not worry about, because I think a lot of people attach their identity to their perspective, right? They attach who they are to that's a letter E. And if I for 1 minute remove myself from that to allow myself to come to your side to see it's a number 3, suddenly it devalues myself, where it really doesn't change anything. It actually makes me more valuable because I'm being a better human, right? And I think for people to be able to do that would be so amazing.
Well, for a lot of parts, that's why I love the term helicopter view as well, because a lot of times we don't see reality, we see our interpretation of reality. Because if we would see everything, our brain would explode, right? There's too much information, like you already said
Right.
previously. Let's say that there's a car accident on the street, right? And there are four people that have seen the same accident, right? If there's a mother, she might be concerned about the baby that was on the back seat, right? While the other person thinks it's a shame of this beautiful Audi A6 that was brand new and now get demolished, right? He might not even have seen the baby, but because the mother is a mother, right? She has seen the child in the back seat. She sees a totally different thing. That's why you have with the same event, you might have hear like 4, 5, 6 different stories because we all got our own filters through which we experience reality.
Right. Yeah, I will mention you have great taste in cars, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right, and I think especially in that situation, emotion is going to be a big part of that, because people are going to be caught in the emotion of the accident, and they're going to want to focus only on that one thing that's most important to them at the time. So to be able to take a break from that, take a pause, and be able to have the conversation calmly, I think they would collectively put the whole story together. But being able to kind of calm the mind to have that conversation is really hard.
Yeah, definitely. Reconstruction in such a situation is very complex, I would say.
Yeah. So I know we're running sort of out of time here. I did have a couple other questions I'd love to ask you. question number one: what is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten from someone?
The best piece of advice what I got was actually to read the book Think and Grow Rich. Well, actually, I was at a business event and I had a hard time to explain what I was doing. And it was a business coach, and he came with a quote: um, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." And that was a quote from Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich. And just that quote was already made a huge difference in my entrepreneurial journey, because it's actually, whatever you believe.
Yeah, that's so good. So my next question for you would be, what does success mean to you?
What does success mean to me? That's actually a hard question. But for me, it means that I am following my purpose, that I can do what I love to do, be energized by it, and make the world a better place. And if I'm able to do that, then in my definition, I'm successful. Because I believe everybody is here on earth to make a positive impact, to use their talents and skills. And the moment you're using your talents and skill to make a positive impact on the world, then you're successful.
I love that. And I do want to take this opportunity to just honor you for showing up here and sharing what you shared, because by that definition of success, I think you've been wildly successful here today and in your own life. And I just want to congratulate you and again honor you for doing that, because it's not easy and it takes a lot. And there's a lot of sacrifices that are made for someone who sits in your spot, who has to sort of hear other people's burdens and help guide them through that. And I know that's not easy. So I just wanted to again congratulate you and thank you and give you that honor and praise for doing that, because it makes a big difference. So I at least want you to know that I personally appreciate that.
I feel humbled, Jim, and I just want to thank you for having me in the show, because I loved every minute of it, and I think you're a great host and a great questionnaire.
Thank you. One last question before we do go. I love to ask everyone this question because I find the answers so fascinating. What's your favorite type of cake, and is there some type of memory associated with eating that cake or enjoying that experience?
My favorite cake was a cake that my grandmother made. Was like I'm not sure how you call it in English, but it was this white and chocolate mixed cake that she baked, and she always gave me these big slices of cake. She baked it herself. She was a great baker, and yeah, I still, the moment I think about it, it's like I taste it, I smell it again. It's a wonderful memory of my grandmother as well. She baked great apple pies as well, but sometimes she had the raisins too long in the rum, so sometimes it was a bit that good for kids. But yeah, no, those cakes were wonderful.
That's amazing. I appreciate that. And again, just want to honor you for showing up here today and for sharing yourself with myself and our audience. And I know for me, I personally got a lot out of this conversation, and I'm sure everyone else did too. Is there any way that we can support you?
Well, I love connecting with new people. If people want to follow me or connect with me, they can do it on LinkedIn. Can just look for Erwin Wils. I'm one of the few on LinkedIn, and I love growing my network. So if there's any way that I can be of service, I would love to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, honor to you for showing up. It means a lot.
You're welcome. More than welcome, Jim.